Before we continue, I've been personally funding the Finding Genius podcast for 4.5 years now, which has led to 2,700 plus interviews of clinicians, researchers, scientists, CEOs, and other amazing people who are working to advance science and improve our lives and our world. Even though this podcast gets 100,000 plus downloads a month, we need your help to reach hundreds of thousands more worldwide. Please visit findinggeniuspodcast.com and click on Support Us. We have 3 levels of membership from $10 to $49 a month, including perks such as the ability to see ahead in our interview calendar and ask questions of upcoming guests, transcripts of podcasts you're interested in, the ability to request specific topics or guests, and more. Visit findinggeniuspodcast.com and click Support Us today. Now, back to the show. Before we get started, I have a quick favor. I've been self-funding the Finding Genius podcast for 5 years now. I've done over 3,000 episodes. And as you can see on YouTube, we're up over 1 million views on the channel, which is fantastic. The next thing I really want to push on is to get up to 10,000 subscribers, because once we do, we'll be able to put a donate button and we'll be able to solicit donations to help keep the podcast running and to also get the Finding Genius Foundation moving along. We have a big project studying anxiety, depression, and PTSD and working on a product to help people overcome these problems, because I've seen them explode recently after the last 2 years of the whole virus situation. So if you would, please subscribe to the podcast. That would help us tremendously. Give us a thumbs up and check in the description for Buy Me a Coffee. It's about $5. If you could buy me a coffee, I'd really appreciate it. It would help keep the channel going, and I love coffee. Thank you.
Forget frequently asked questions,
common sense, common knowledge, or Google.
How about advice from a real genius? 95% of people in any profession are good enough to be qualified and licensed. 5%
go above and beyond.
They become very good at what they do, but only
0.1%
are real geniuses. Richard Jacobs has made it his life's mission to find them for you. He hunts down and interviews geniuses in every field: sleep science, cancer, stem cells, ketogenic diets, and more. Here come the geniuses. This is the Finding Genius Podcast
with Richard Jacobs.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Finding Genius Podcast, now part of the Finding Genius Foundation. My guest today is Dr. Ellen Cutler. She has a method that goes with her initials, the ECM method. She's a best-selling author and an internationally recognized teacher, public speaker, and media spokesperson. She's the founder of the method, the ECM method. We're going to talk about what that is, how it helps people, and we'll get into all those details. So, Ellen, welcome. Thank you.
Great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, if you would, let's start out with a little bit of background on yourself. What have you done and the various careers and endeavors in your life, and then what's your current project about?
Well, I first went to chiropractic school, so I'm a chiropractor. And then later on, I also went and got a medical degree. So I'm very studious. This is my work, my life, 24/7. I've been in practice for 40 plus years. I have a clinic in Mill Valley, and the reason I got into this is that I had some health issues myself. And I was diagnosed with colitis when I was in chiropractic school. And besides going to school, I had to work and support myself. So I hardly slept, and things got worse and worse. And while I was in my course, later on, I did an orthopedic specialty. One of the doctors who knew what I was going through said, "Did you ever try a digestive enzyme?" And at that time, nobody heard about it. It was on the radar at all. Nobody knew what a digestive enzyme, neither did I. And he said, you are carbohydrate intolerant, which most of the population is, which means you don't digest your carbs and they ferment, so you get bloated and then inflammation, etc. And those are the symptoms that I was experiencing, and I had inflammation of the colon. So I tried the digestive enzyme, and it was a full-spectrum digestive enzyme that digests everything but focused on carbs. And Richard, within 2 weeks, never had a problem again.
I thought it'd be a funny idea. What if you had a restaurant that paired digestive enzymes with your meal? Like if you're having something with a cream sauce, it gives you like ox bile to break up the fats and, to break up proteins. And what do you think about that?
Believe me, I've thought of everything. In fact, I had I don't want to say his name, but a very famous rock star that saw me and said, "Dr. Ellen, you should have little, like the candy things they would have before you get it in places, you put a nickel in or whatever." You should have one of those in every restaurant. So people come in or put them on the
like a vending machine?
Yes, a vending. That's what it is. And and then I actually worked with someone one time that thought, let's put it in water. I've tried everything. The problem is that once you open and put the digestive enzyme in food, it immediately digests the food. So, for example, if you want to see how well they work, make some oatmeal and put them in 2 different bowls. And one bowl put in a digestive enzyme and the other bowl don't. So within minutes, the one with the digestive enzyme is completely broken down and dissolved into almost water. The other one gets thicker and thicker and thicker. So it's a great experiment, shows how they work. Anyway, I became passionate about enzymes, as you can imagine, because it saved my life. So in my chiropractic practice, I gave everybody a digestive enzyme, no matter what they came in with. If they came in with headaches, or they came with a sprain, or if they came with low back pain, and I saw miracles. So I wrote a book called Micro Miracles, and my new updated book just came out just a couple of days ago, so it's perfect timing. It's Discover the Healing Power of Enzymes, and it's completely updated. It has a new chapter, expanded chapter on anti-aging, because it is the key to anti-aging, and a new chapter on COVID, pandemics, just pandemics and enzymes, and long hauler. It's a great chapter. People will love it and relate to it, and it will help them.
Quick question here.
Yes.
I don't know if this is like an irrational fear, but if I take enzymes with every meal, what I've noticed is I digest easier and I make a smoother transition from full to hungry again, and it's faster, the digestion. But I worry, what if I stop and then I'm dependent on the enzymes and I can't digest properly if I don't have them? Does that happen?
Great question. So let me explain. That doesn't happen. It's just the opposite. It also actually helps increase your digestive process. So the reason people are deficient in digestive enzymes is because we don't chew our food well enough, number one. Number two, we don't eat enough fiber or plant food that has the enzymes in it. Enzymes I recommended are not metabolic enzymes that are in your body or digestive enzymes. You can't replace those. These are food enzymes that should be normally in plant, but because our soil has been over-agriculturized, we're deficient in those cofactors that make the enzymes for the plants, so we're deficient in it. So supporting the digestive process with a good full-spectrum digestive enzyme that are basically from plant, they're food enzymes, actually helps your body not become deficient in its own digestive enzyme. It encourages it because it heals your digestive process. So it's a great question because people say, well, what if I got dependent? And it's so, does that make sense to you? Do you understand? So it's good for you. And, you know, some people don't take it with every meal, but I do because I never want to feel the way I felt. But if you do it one meal a day, it's probably going to still make a huge difference at any age, and it can hurt you.
When you said miracles were happening, what does that mean? What did you observe?
I saw people's energy, and this happened to me too. Energy, people have been fatigued their whole life. All of a sudden they have energy. In fact, I just got an email because I have my own enzymes that are on my website that I put together because I wanted the best. And a woman from Paris, she said, I tried all these different enzymes and your enzymes made such a big difference. The difference was incredible. Energy, hair, nails, and skin. I can look at somebody, Richard, and see if they're digesting their food. You could see it. They're in their skin. I can look at someone and say, you're not digesting your food. And most people don't because they don't chew their food. They don't eat enough, plant food. Female hormones is a big one. Even emotional stuff too helps you with stress. I know myself, and I'm sure you've seen this. If your gut is not happy, it's hard to work. It's hard to feel good. It's hard to exercise. It's hard to be in relationship. The gut is central to a happy, healthy body, I believe. And taking a digestive enzyme, and I believe it's the number one most important supplement that you need to take is a digestive enzyme. So, people with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, big difference. And I believe it's anti-aging.
When you say digestive enzyme, I'm sure there's multiple different digestive enzymes, there's stuff that breaks down protein and fats and carbs, all that stuff.
Right, exactly.
So what are some of the critical elements? Like, does it depend on the meal, what kind of enzymes you should pair with it, or just take a generic one and it's fine?
Another great question. Most people, I would say 80 to 90% of the people will do great with a full spectrum digestive enzyme that has the lipase, fat digesting enzymes, protease, for digesting protein, all the carbohydrate digestive enzymes, lactase and maltase and sucrase and disaccharidase. So, and it has cellulase in it because we don't make, that's a one enzyme we don't make. We don't make cellulase. So what we depend on is chewing. And that's why some people say, well, I can't eat all that fiber because I break it down because I don't chew well. So the enzyme supports that, helps that. Some people need maybe more specifically focused on protein and some people on fat. But most of the patients I've seen do well in just a full spectrum digestive enzyme too. My ECM work, which I guess we'll talk about, one of the things that I teach people this technique is looking at sometimes what you're intolerant to as far as the different foods. And sometimes you can recommend with this technique, find out what another maybe better enzyme would be, maybe more protein digestion, because you could take that on top of the other enzyme if you feel you need to. So, but most people, a full spectrum digestive enzyme is where I start.
Well, like for instance, my wife had her gallbladder taken out.
Yeah.
So for her, ox bile works well to break up fats. If we're going to have a meal with, let's say, cream sauces or fat in it and stuff, she seems to need that more than I do because she has a harder time like emulsifying the fats. So that's what I mean. Are there like what nuances in someone's physicality would suggest they should have not just a generic enzyme, but something in addition?
Well, one thing, somebody like, let's say they had the gallbladder removed. One of the things that I've done and what I've been passionate about in my work as a healer, as a doctor, is to find the underlying cause of why that happened. Because getting the gallbladder out doesn't fix why she got that in the first place. So what I would do with my work, my ECM technique, which is an incredible technique, energetic technique that I have protocols that gets to the root of what is going on. If someone comes in, well, I had my gallbladder removed, or I have asthma, or I have headaches. What is it? What is it? Rather than finding a supplement or a drug or getting it removed. So what is it? So based on that, I would also see what is the underlying cause of that. And you never know. It could be fats. It could be some other things that you're not digesting. So that's how I evaluate what's the underlying cause, what she's not digesting, what foods. One of the things to look at is sensitivity to food. So my technique is about clearing sensitivities or allergies, you can call it. Because guaranteed your wife has food sensitivities. Most people do. And of course, they come from not digesting food. So looking at what foods. And so based on all of that, it's a conglomeration of a lot of different things that I look at. I come up with a specific maybe enzyme for her too. And I don't use any animal products in my practice. I'm a vegan. It's not that people shouldn't take ox bile. I know that it works for some people, but what I would recommend is a fat digesting enzyme too, which I have in my practice for sure that I use. And that not only helps you with that, it helps with other things. Like I have found I found that people who have fat digestive problems have problems with thyroid usually. They either hypo or could be hyper, but they usually have a thyroid issue and they always crave salt. So look at salty things. And these are just things I've seen, because everybody is different, and that my practice, what's interesting about ECM, it's very tailored to the person. So we can have two people that have their gallbladder removed and completely different underlying causes or root causes that cause that to happen too. But fat digestion is somewhat obvious, Yeah.
What about like low stomach acid? Like a lot of people take like Prilosec and all this crap they think they have too much stomach acid, but from what I've learned, a lot of people have not enough stomach acid. So I've taken like biotics, this thing called HCl. It's like betaine and pepsin.
Sure.
It actually helps my digestion like crazy, but it increases my stomach acid, it seems like. That's what, So do you run into low stomach acid? Is that a factor or a problem you've encountered?
I encounter that, but again, I look at what are the underlying causes of stuff. Why do you have hypochlorhydria, which is low stomach acid? So I'm like,
Who cares why? Just give him medicine. No, you're right.
That's what people
right.
want. And that's not what I do, because if what's underneath that, there might be other things that it's causing as well. You know what I mean? So, but betaine HCl is excellent. Again, I don't use it because it's more of an animal enzyme, but I've seen very good results with it. So I understand why it's helped you too. But I look at what is the underlying cause of it. It could be something totally different. It could be genetic. It could be that you don't digest certain foods, and that's why you're having low HCl. There's a lot of other things. You could be allergic to chloride or hydrogen. I've seen it all, believe me. So that's where I come from. That's how I work. And I don't like people taking a lot of supplements. Honestly, Richard, if you don't digest your food, how are you going to digest all these supplements, right?
Well, I guess I thought that those are like free passes. If you get a digestive enzyme, it does the digestion for you. Let's explore that if you don't mind. Do digestive enzymes digest for you, or do they just help you digest with your natural body processes? Like what have you seen as their actual role?
Excellent question. They help your body digest too. It's basically the enzymes that I recommend is if you chew your food well, and we had food that had the enzymes in there that was enough to support your digestion, you wouldn't need to take a digestive enzyme. Again, you can't really replace your digestive enzymes, but you can deplete them if you're not digesting your food. So you're taking a digestive enzymes help you digest your food, helps your body do the digesting as well. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just didn't know, like I said, if it's, that was like back to my earlier question. If you use it for like, let's say months on end, your body is not suddenly going to go, oh, we don't know what to do when you stop using it. So it's more of like an assist instead of a taking over for your body, it sounds like.
Exactly. Perfect. It augments your digestive system. It's the way it should be. It's the way it should be. But, over the years, like years and years ago, the soil was very different and people, we never heard of kids having GERD. You know what GERD is, right? Gastroesophageal reflux disorder. It was something that, maybe older people would have. Now you see it in young people or esophagitis too in young people. It was never heard of.
Is there any point in, it's probably overkill. I'm guessing you'll think so. But what if you had an app where people put in what they're going to eat, and then the app tells them specific digestive enzymes to have for that meal? Like, let's say Chipotle's in there, or, I don't know, or On the Border or something like that, really different restaurants. I know,
I would love that. I've thought of everything. I thought, how am I going to get my work on an app? Because there's only one of me. I teach, but somehow I think it's a great idea. Or I wanted an app that just tells each person what their food sensitivities are and then what enzyme to take, which is the same thing,
Okay.
So I would love that. I just have to find the right people. And of course, I'm in the Bay Area, so I've looked. I just need a few of me because I still have a very busy practice, and trying to teach and be a grandmother. That's my most favorite thing to do.
Okay.
I love that idea, though. If you have anybody who is interested in working with me on that, I'd love it.
Sure. Okay. So I think I told you what I noticed. Like, again, when I eat and I take digestive enzymes, what I notice is I transition from being full to being hungry much faster, and it's smooth. What have you heard from clients, and what have you experienced when you take digestive enzymes? Like, what are they telling you they experience now versus before?
Things that I see regularly is, I don't have any bloating anymore. I mean, that's number one. I don't crave foods, because when you digest your food and you're optimizing your nutrition, you're getting what you need from the food. You crave foods less. Oh, I don't crave those foods as much anymore. I have more energy. My stamina is better. I don't have reflux, and I lost weight. Not great. I noticed that, I'm losing weight. And, it's also because, diets work. Most diets, if you eat less, you'll probably lose weight. But I think sometimes it doesn't happen because you're not digesting your food. So digestion of foods is significantly helpful for people when they go on a diet. But I think the most obvious things is all my digestive stress is gone. And why didn't anybody suggest that to me a while ago? Why did I have to go to all these GIs and Mayo Clinic and stuff? I could tell you stories, miracle stories. And that's what's in my book, is stories of really miracles. They've gone all over, put on all kinds of drugs, and then you take a digestive enzyme and they feel better. I have one enzyme that's on my website called GI Calm. That is one of the most excellent enzymes for people who have reflux, like you were talking about Prilosec and all that. And it's amazing how well it helps with reflux and heartburn and bloating and people who've been diagnosed with colitis or diagnosed with irritable bowel or leaky gut. It's incredibly helpful. And once you find this enzyme, you'll never leave home without it. Because if you go on vacation, you eat too much food and maybe have a little alcohol, which clearly helps, causes a lot of fermentation. You take this GI Calm, within minutes, it makes a huge difference. So that's another enzyme that's been incredibly successful in my practice over, 40-something years for sure.
So what are, over the years, how have you refined your protocols? Like what's new, what's different about what you do with people that you didn't do in the beginning?
Well, I have my first technique that I developed was called Bioset, and which is my technique now is so much more advanced, but that's the earlier technique. And unfortunately, I lost the company, and which was very traumatic for me. So I reinvented myself and made my technique now ECM even more advanced. So it's an energetic technique that utilizes a certain machine that is tied into a computerized program. And through different testing of different meridians, acupuncture meridians, I'm able to detect the underlying cause of chronic health issues as well as preventing chronic health issues. So I call them libraries. I have libraries of all kinds of items. And I work with anti-aging. I work with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, skin irritations, autoimmune, people with autoimmune problems. And again, I get to the root of it and I look at how the body detoxifies, what enzymes, how their digestion is, and what are the sensitivities. I call them sensitivities. So for example, if somebody comes in with asthma, I look at how their body's detoxifying. I look at what are causes of the asthma. Is it emotional? Is it endocrine? Is it a pathogen that even though on a laboratory test, it doesn't state you have a bacteria, but energetically or a virus, you could still be reacting to it. Or is it a neurotransmitter? Or is it an environmental toxin? Or is it a thought? Some people come in and something like cancer shows up, and it doesn't mean they have cancer, but they're thought because somebody else close to them died of cancer, they think they have it. And then what I do is I have a way, which is an acupressure technique of clearing the sensitivity. And foods, of course, are most important. And by clearing this, their health and what they came in for, the results are remarkable. And so over the years, I've advanced these protocols. I have so many protocols that come in. So let's say your wife came in and she had a gallbladder removed and she's still having some symptoms, probably, sure. And I look at what are the underlying root of it. Is it hormones? Is it a pathogen that's still there? Is it emotional? Or is it a lot of different things? And I work with people to help clear what they need to get cleared. And I do have miracles. I love this technique. I'm devoted to it. And over time, because I lost this other company, couldn't teach for a while because I used to teach hundreds and hundreds of doctors. But it took me a little while to get back into teaching, but now I'm teaching again. I can do it all through Zoom, which is wonderful. And I'm teaching to everyone, doctors, whoever. If anybody wants to learn it, I'm going to teach them because I found after the pandemic, people want to take care of their families. there's a lot more mistrust of some of the medical systems out there or what we've told, et cetera. So people want to learn it and do it for their family. It's great. And I've had some great results with mothers or fathers, working on their kids, et cetera. Great testimonials. So that's my work. That's my gift in healing. And that's my passion.
Okay. Have there been anyone, there have been people you can't help, or you think it's maybe something that they're not doing that they're not telling you?
That's a great question. I have trouble working with people who smoke because it's so toxic to the environment. Because part of the technique, any healing technique, I believe, is the body has to go through some detoxification. And if you're smoking, it's difficult to support the detoxification. It won't happen.
Yeah, you're constantly retoxifying yourself.
Exactly, yeah. That's pretty much, I've had people where I don't give up. They might give up, but I don't give up. And eventually they get better. Not that everybody gets better that sees me, but I would say I have a great success. And on my book, I have some really good endorsements, some very well-known people that have been through my work. And just take digestive enzyme. It makes such a difference, And sometimes it's like one treatment they need. Sometimes, for example, I'll never forget, I had this guy came to see me who felt like something clicked. And he all of a sudden had brain fog or whatever, and digestive system was off. And he was a physicist. And he said, Dr. Ellen, something happened. I don't know what it is. And that's why someone suggested you come see, because maybe I could figure out what happened that caused this. I found parasites with him. And of course, he's traveled all over the world, and so it wasn't surprising to him. I cleared him for the parasite and some food sensitivities, and he said something clicked back, and I was better. I was myself again, And it's like, how many people would have found parasites? Because, tests done or whatever. But you have to look at this energetic. I know it's going to become more well-known, energy medicine, but this is what I look at. What energetically, what else? People don't look at that. There's so much more to us than just a lab test or an x-ray. There's other ways. And my machine, this instrument that I use, enables me to go deeper into what could happen. And that was one treatment we did, and it changed his whole body.
Okay. What are some other common conditions that you treat or you help to treat?
Well, a lot with respiratory problems, asthma, etc., and female issues for sure, menopause, dysmenorrhea. And I work with people who have had cancer. I don't treat cancer, but I will work with people who have had cancer, and cardiovascular issues, all the digestive, colitis, irritable bowel, IBS, eczema, headaches is another big one too. Lyme I've worked with too. And I work a lot in conjunction with other doctors, mental, emotion, metabolic stuff, type 2 diabetics and pre-diabetics, insulin resistance, prostate, sleep issues for sure, and weight and thyroid too. So I don't treat the disease. I treat the person. So when they come in, I ask, what are your symptoms? What do you need help with too? Because oftentimes some of the diagnosis I don't get as accurate, and like cystitis or kidney issues as well too. So I look at what's causing these underlying symptoms, and then I clear them for it. And foods are the first thing I look at, as well as how they're digesting their food and how their body's detoxifying.
Okay, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The enzymes that you have, are they ones that you've had formulated, or over the counter certain brands? The ones that you use that you track the brands and see which ones are good. Because I tried different digestive enzymes from different companies, and some of them just don't do anything, and some of them work really well. So what am I missing, or what do you see?
I will send you. You'll send me your address, Richard. I'll send you our enzymes, and you'll see.
Thank you.
I formulated them for sure, and the place I've used for years and years. I trust them too, and it makes such a big difference. The integrity of the company that's making enzymes, especially enzymes. So yeah, you send me. I'm happy to send you. I'll send you my new book too. But you'll try them and take one digestive enzyme or two before meals. It can work after meals too, but ideally it's better to take before meals. And if you have a really big meal too, it's okay. Otherwise, one is fine. And that should work. And I would try it with every meal and then let me know. You'll see it. If any of them going to make a difference, this one will.
Oh, why, by the way, is it better to do it before a meal versus during or after?
Well, it's pre-digest. Again, it's you want to help your body, like you said, assist the digestive process. So it's better to take it before meals, like even 10 minutes before a meal. But what we've noticed in my study, in my working with people, some people take it after meal. It still works well. So it pre-digests and then it digests what you didn't digest too. So and probably in between meal work too. But I recommend before you eat.
It'd be funny if you had your own version of Reader's Digest, but it meant something different. Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe you call your blog that or your newsletter.
I love it. I love that idea of recommending the digestive enzyme based on what they eat. I got to do that out. Or food sensitivities, just because really, if people cleared food sensitivities, I would say it would greatly enhance their well-being. Greatly. Especially with children. That's the first thing I look at with children. If they're going through stuff, you look at what they're eating. Most people are sensitive to 80%. 80% of the population is sensitive to foods, really, except the people I've worked. Except the people I've worked on. But when you take an enzyme, reduce that sensitivity quite a bit.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, good.
Okay, well, Ellen, what's the best way for people to find out more and to start engaging with you? Where can they go?
Well, my website is drellencutler.com. And my Facebook, which I do a lot on my Facebook page, Micro Miracles, is a Facebook page. And every Monday, I do a Miracle Monday video. And my new book, I'm so excited, is Micro Miracles, Discover the Healing Power of Enzymes. It just came out. And people, if you really want to learn how to get healthy, read this book. Honestly, it's so important. It has so much in there that will help.
Okay, very good. Well, Ellen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And send me your address and we'll send you an enzyme for sure.
Excellent.
If you like this podcast, please click the link in the description to subscribe and review us on iTunes.
You've been listening to the Finding Genius podcast with Richard Jacobs. If you like what you hear, be sure to review and subscribe to the Finding Genius podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And want to be smarter than everybody else? Become a premium member at findinggeniuspodcast.com. This podcast is for information only. No advice of any kind is being given. Any action you take or don't take as a result of listening is your sole responsibility. Consult professionals when advice is needed.